I wanted to talk about two documentaries I just watched that are really interesting. Okay, the first one is Who the Fuck is Jackson Pollock? And fuck is like, it could be anything because it's all exclamation and asterisks, you know. And it's about a trucker, this old woman who was a trucker her whole life, who bought a Jackson Pollock painting, evidently, for $5. And it starts out the movie, you're not sure if it really is one, because it's all about her trying to get the art industry to acknowledge that it's Jackson Pollock. And she's went through many routes, and they basically rejected her. It doesn't have the feel of a Jackson Pollock, which is kind of like, well, if you're talking about an unfinished work found in without provenance, you know, then I don't know what you'd expect. Anyway, she went to a forensic art guy, and this guy looked at all kinds of stuff. He has all kinds of supporting proof, but one of the main things he found is a fingerprint from the back of the painting. And then they don't have fingerprints of Jackson Pollock, but then he went to the Jackson Pollock some museum of his home where his studio was, and they have paint cans that he actually used that were left there when he died, and they found a print on there, and it matches. And the art world is still like, see, they already hate this woman after years of her trying to do it without this forensic study. So now they have the forensic study, and they're just like, well, that's just a thumbprint. That could have been anybody. Could have been a workman came in and moved paint cans around, and then he painted a Jackson Pollock painting. You know, and it's really interesting. I mean, it becomes pretty clear that it is a Jackson Pollock painting, which would make it worth about $50 million. And she's been offered $2 million, which she wouldn't take, and she has no money. It doesn't seem like, but she just wouldn't do it. And sure enough, it's become now like it's kind of like, well, they know it, but it can't really be auctioned for its full price until the art world accepts it, and the accepted, um, experts, approve of it. Meanwhile, these people are slowly offering more money. She got an offer for 10 million that she also turned down. Um, because once they spend money on it, it's like that's almost invention of provenance, right? Because suddenly it's got the backing of somebody believed it was the real deal, and they'll turn around and sell it for 100. And wow, it looks like Pollock, and I mean, I wouldn't go from that, but in terms of the experts that saw it, that said it wasn't one, they were like, well, we can't really tell. Nobody has a forensic, like, look, this paint is wrong, and so on and so forth. I mean, the forensics all point to the fact that it is a painting of his, and looking closely, there's little specks of gold paint that are found in the paint in his studio, and they're still resisting her, basically, because it's really a condemnation of the art world. She ends up going to a guy to help try to sell this painting, who has gotten things moving for her, who spent 2 years in jail for defrauding people such as Jack Nicholson, who forgave the 600,000 he got robbed. He didn't make fake paintings. I guess he just took money and didn't give them the art or something like this. And um, so it's a really interesting story, and she's an interesting old woman. I mean, the movie starts off. Most stories, stories are supposed to start once upon a time. Well, story starts. You aren't gonna believe this shit. And she has sort of a knack of finding things of value in it. She was a trucker, and she likes to go dumpster dive behind. Find things sealed up even still. She's a funny person, and you could see like how the elitism comes in, and thinking that of course she doesn't have a Jackson Pollock, and just being pissed off at her by the time she proved it. Probably if she would have got the forensic expert proved about the thumbprint before she went to the art world, they probably would have been a lot easier. So, but anyway, okay. The other one is called Surfwise, and it's about um, uh, Dorian Doc Paskowski and his family. He was a surfer. He was a surfer as a kid, and then became a doctor. Did really well. Moved to Honolulu. Was doing well as a doctor, and then just um, dropped out. Didn't believe in it. Lived in a an RV, and surfed. Became a famous surfer, and he had a famous surf family, and his kids all did really well surfing. And he ended up having 9 kids, and they all lived in this RV. and it's a movie about that. So it's pretty interesting. Um, I think it's kind of about, now this guy's a little older than, I don't know if he counts as a baby boomer or not. He's would be kind of a little older than most of the baby boomers, but it's a similar story that these people that dropped out and had their babies, the babies, all the babies you see at Woodstock. And I'm 42. My parents were baby boomers and caught right in the middle of that. And it's funny watching those kids grow up. And, because the hippies all think, hey, look at our kids. They're so happy. They're running around natural like they are meant to do. But the kids have various opinions as they grow up. Various kinds of kids are not served that way. Some kids are served really well that way, but like I say, others aren't. And this is sort of about that. The family ended up with all kinds of drama and tension inside it. It turns out the father, was abusive. And so there's abusive relationships in there. None of them went to school. They didn't just live in a van. They also did not go to school. None of them got educated. It's kind of sad in a couple of cases. One case in particular where the kid wanted to go to medical school, and he found out he would have to do 10 years of schooling to have the requirements to be able to go to any good school. He wanted to go to Stanford like his father had. His father's the Stanford doctor who didn't believe in this stuff. So it's sort of an overpowering dad, and yet there's a lot of great things about their lifestyle, and they just got to play and have a beach lifestyle. I might say that it's definitely a good thing culturally to have these kinds of experiences, that somebody's willing to take these risks and have them in that sense, because otherwise we wouldn't necessarily even know what the result was. The result was chaos in a lot of ways, though they're very interesting. His kids are interesting and kind of mostly seem pretty cooler people than him. He also seems cool. He has certain ideas. He's just sort of a fanatic about his ideas of health and things, And so anyway, yeah. So who the fuck is Jackson Pollock and Surfwise? Did I say that? And anyway, that second one was called, about the surf family. It's called Surfwise. Both on Netflix, by the way. And there you go.